697071.
Yeah, okay, I'll just turn them all over to you.
Good morning. If someone would be so kind as to close those back doors. And we'll call to order the meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Ms. Quigley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Your first item is to conduct your first citizens participation period.
This is the first time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak on a posted agenda item, now is your opportunity. Dr. Michael Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Brown and RTC board members. My name is Dr. Michael Johnson. I'm the Director of Community Health for the Southern Nevada Health District. And the Southern Nevada Health District wants everyone in our community to have opportunities to live healthy. To this end, we work with many different partners and stakeholders, including the Regional Transportation Commission. Our Office of Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion has worked with the RTC for several years on a range of initiatives to increase opportunities for physical activity and active transportation. Funds we received through federal grants allowed us to support the development of design guidelines to accompany the RTC Complete Streets policy and fund several miles of bike lanes through Clark County. We are also pursuing sponsorship of the RTC Bike Share program. Our current agreement with the RTC supports the update of the regional bike and pedestrian plan that you will hear later about in this meeting. The Regional Bike and Pedestrian Plan represents months of work and significant effort to engage the community and key stakeholders to identify regional significant bike and pedestrian facilities in Clark County. We are particularly pleased with the emphasis on equity that informed all phases of the plan to ensure that bike and pedestrian facilities are safe and accessible where they are most needed in our valley. Increasing the walkability and bikeability of our communities is a key public health priority. Walkable and bikeable communities are ones in which kids can safely walk or bike to school, and opportunities for physical activity and active transportation are plentiful. These communities encourage active living and ultimately help us meet physical activity and other public health goals. The Southern Nevada Health District strongly supports the Regional Bike and Pedestrian Plan along with the goals and objectives included in it. We commend the work of the RTC staff and contractors that worked on this project, particularly Kathy Halka and the Alta team, and we look forward to working together on future initiatives. Thank you for your time this morning and your consideration.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for to the Health District as far as the collaboration and the partnership. It's absolutely a worthy project.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very happy to be a part of it. Thanks.
Now, my daughter's name is Jonna, so this is either going to be a Johanna Murphy.
Good morning. My name is Johanna Murphy.
Johanna.
I'm with the City of North Las Vegas, and I am the chair of the Regional Open Space and Trails Working Group, also known as ROST. ROST was created by the SNRPC to serve as a catalyst to establish a regional open space and trail system and coordinate trail connectivity. ROST focuses on the goals set forth in the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan, which includes enhancing bicycle and pedestrian facilities throughout the region. ROST, which is a forum for sharing information, is pleased to be chosen as one of the 4 stakeholder advisory groups for the development of the Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. As a stakeholder, ROST worked with the RTC to ensure the plan would result in a fully integrated system that connects trails and on-street facilities to destinations throughout the valley. The plan places an emphasis on safety, user comfort, equity, and health. We are pleased the Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan incorporates the work of ROS's Neon to Nature Trail program and expands the outreach to include additional pedestrian and bicycle facilities for our citizens. We are also excited by the design guidelines included in the plan. This chapter greatly expands the work started by ROS and provides a template for all communities within Southern Nevada to provide safe and equitable facilities on trails and within the existing roadways. The Ross commends the work of the RTC's team, led by Kathy Halka, and we look forward to working jointly to implement the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Breen. Come on down.
Good morning, Chairman Brown, members of the RTC board. I'm here today to do one of my very favorite things, which is to be a cheerleader for the RTC. In my role as part of the Transportation Research Center at UNLV, I also have a program called the Southern Nevada, what's the name of it? The Southern Nevada Pedestrian Education and Legislation Committee. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And we were thrilled to be one of the 4 partners with the RTC to oversee the development and implementation of the regional bicycle and pedestrian safety plan. And those of you who know me, you know how hard it is for me to say bicycle before pedestrian. This is not just a life-saving measure, it's a quality of life measure. And this plan that you have in front of you today literally will not save lives, but it will save lives, but it will also enhance the lives of Southern Nevada residents by adding more trails, safer places to walk, safer places to bike. And as you know, it's something that we're in great need of. So I hate to be the one today to be the bearer of bad news, but our pedestrian and bike fatalities have continued to rise. Between 2010 and 2015, our pedestrian fatalities doubled. Right now, we are ahead of last year's pace by a third in Southern Nevada, and we are only 1 short of last year's total for bicycle fatalities. So this could not be more timely. We need everyone's commitment to see this plan through to its fruition. And I know that all of our entities are working very hard, and that this is something that I hope that everyone will look to as the standard for what we should be doing for those vulnerable road users, because they are, in fact, extremely vulnerable on our streets. But if we had this plan implemented and we had more people who walked and biked and chose transit and walking and biking for their commute even 1 day a week, then we have drivers that better understand what it is to be a cyclist and be a pedestrian, and so they know how to interact. And that's why this plan is so important to us. Can't tell you enough how great it was to work with this team, Kathy Halka, the team from Alta Planning, and of course all of the RTC members. They're just terrific partners, and everybody who's doing all that they can, and we just need to keep getting the message out to all the road users about what their job is. So I thank you to get to come and talk to you today about bikes and pedestrians, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you for all you do in the community. Rick Skipton. Good morning, either one.
Morning. My name is Rick Skipton. I'm a North Las Vegas resident and a member of the Southern Nevada Bicycle Coalition. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the coalition and its president, Keely Brooks, who had a work conflict, so she couldn't be here today. The coalition is a nonprofit grassroots organization that is the voice of bicyclists in Southern Nevada. We strive to make biking better for everyone, advocate safer roadways, better trails, and seek to bring more biking opportunities to Southern Nevada. We aim to bring riders together to support issues and connect the community through cycling. First, we'd like to commend Kathy and her team on the report that they've produced. It's comprehensive, well-reasoned, and forward-looking. Second, the approach the team took creating this document was outstanding. From the beginning, it was consultative and driven by the desire to get widespread community involvement and input. Over 2 years ago, we were approached to be one of the 4 stakeholder advisory groups. We couldn't be more pleased with the process and the product. We'd like to highlight the following successes. RTC and contractors provided more than half a dozen presentations to the members, giving us the feeling of ownership in the final plan. Our early involvement enabled us to push out RTC's first online survey through social media and led to over 1,000 responses. This survey determined bicyclist comfort levels surrounding specific road designs. Our members particularly liked the interactive mapping tool because they could easily identify dangerous intersections and high priority roads for new facilities and conveyance roads that could be put on road diets. That's a new term for me, road diets. Concerning biking facilities, we approve of increasing the number of high comfort roadways like bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, and separated bike lanes by 27% from current levels, and elimination of the bicycle route, which was simply a sign on an existing roadway but offered absolutely no protection to cyclists. These improvements are essential to grow ridership, as the planned survey showed safety and comfort was the #1 reason keeping people from riding. The RTC policy for complete streets is particularly important to ensure new roadways or existing roadways, improving existing roadways, use these principles to make streets safer. And we approve of the inclusion of many funding and financing strategies to help jurisdictions implement the proposed facilities, programs, and policies in the plan. Finally, in addition to recommending RTC approve this plan, we strongly urge RTC to immediately complete a comprehensive review of the RTC road design requirements and that jurisdictions use to build and modify roadways and eliminate any streets that allow 13-foot lanes, which lead to excessive speeds. This will go a long way to reducing both pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities due to excessive motorist speed. We respectfully recommend you adopt this plan, and we look forward to working with the RTC on future planning projects. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I apologize in advance. Bardia Nizadi? That's why I had to put on the glasses, just to make sure. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Brown, members of the board. My name is Bardi Nazadi, which you pronounced perfectly. I don't know if the slides are up for you all to look at. This is a month after one of our surgeons in Las Vegas Valley passed away in a tragic bike accident on Pavilion Center Drive, right across from Red Rock. It's tragic because he was a phenomenal human being. He was a kind, one of the top surgeons in the nation. But beyond that, he was my best friend. Today, I'm here not as a transportation professional. I'm here as his friend and want to basically share with you some of the data, statistics, and examples I've found through my research. I threw all my grief into doing some research to help, raise the awareness of bike safety and what other progressive cities are doing. Next slide. We won't belabor that. You heard that our crash safety statistics is rising. Majority of those, 1,683, or 40% of them, involved bicycle crashes in that period from 2009 to 2015. That's all on our public roads, 69 deaths that occurred, but mainly these are streets that are heavy with traffic, and they're wide lanes, so they're not so conducive to bikers. Next slide, please. So as I was searching all this data and statistics, I found that we all remember when having a shared bike lane was a huge deal. We have a sign that says share the road. There's no stripes. Everybody gets to use it. But then next after that comes a striped lane. That's, again, it's evolving. It's progressing. That was a big deal when we got our first striped bike lane. Next was the green bike lanes. You see all those around downtown Las Vegas. Again, RTC has done a phenomenal job. City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson, very progressive, extremely progressive. Next is these. These are basically barrier separated. Those are plastic pylons. A lot of communities are going to these in terms of a cheap fix to create that physical barrier between the travel lane and the bikers. But the next act is starting. The next slide is one of the movements that's starting all around the U.S. in terms of creating a physical barrier, concrete barrier. Next slide. So what are protected bike lanes? They're really sidewalks for bikers. We don't throw our pedestrians on street to mingle with cars. It's the same thing. We're trying to create a buffer area between the general traffic lanes, vehicular traffic, and bike lanes. And those are done using several different cheap or semi-expensive treatments. There are about 404 protected bike lanes in the US. This statistics may be a little bit old, maybe a lot more than that. 107 cities. I'm actually looking at the monitor in front of Tina. I'm cheating. I looked at all these 400 plus examples. I want to share with you just the top three. This is the Westlake Avenue in Seattle, protected bike lane. Next one is the Randolph Street. This is in Chicago. Next one is downtown University Network. This is in Tallahassee. And the next slide, what I see, the common denominator is all of these are protected bike facilities. They all have a physical barrier between the travel lane and the bikers. These are done by, various different methods. Next slide shows you a bunch of those treatments, from plastic delineator posts to bollards, concrete barriers, raised medians. This is nothing new. This is a picture from 1967, a young lady on a bike, protected bike lane in Davis, California. So this is not a new thing. This is kind of interesting what internet search does for you, what you can come up with. And I want to conclude with this slide, which is, it doesn't have to be an expensive treatment. We could start it with a pilot project, look at a stretch of high fatality bicycle crash route, and try it out. If it doesn't work, we can yank them out. But at least we've done something. We're a progressive community. Tina, RTC have done a phenomenal job. We just want to raise it up a notch. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Nilson Vasconcelos. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Nilson Vasconcelos. I'm a member of the Southern Nevada Bicycle Coalition, also a member of Green Valley Cyclists, also a member of Las Vegas Valley Bicycle Coalition. I do bicycle for more than 35 years, probably. And I would like to say that I agree with the plan that the RTC is doing, and I have a suggestion. The previous person talking about the whole progress of the bike lanes, and I agree with that. The last item, it's perfect. The protect one that's they use it in Europe, especially in Denmark and Holland and all the countries that we know that are miles and miles ahead of us in terms of bicycle lanes and bike protect. But we have here in Las Vegas a solution to connect several places, several neighborhoods that are already there, built, just need open the gates. Where is that? We have the wash trails. We have the flood canals. We have here in Las Vegas, working for bicycles, the upper Las Vegas Washington Trail. We have the Van Wageningen Trail, my pronunciation on that, sorry. We have the Arrowhead Trail. We have the upper, the lower. We have the Duck Creek Trail, specific. We have the Las Vegas Washington Trail. So we have several flood canals in Las Vegas that it's already there, the canal, the bike lane, the fence protecting in case of the person goes on the water and things like that. And it's very, very, very low usage. I ride most of the time 50 miles, 40 miles, 30 miles, going south to north, north to south, east to west, and I never count more than 10 persons on that, including cyclists, walkers, homeless, and things like that. It's amazing. So this whole structure, it's there and no use it at all. And I find one that it's an amazing connection that we cyclists need that I think is the most important one, that is the Duck Creek Trail. It's already between Broadbent, close to wetlands, and ends on Nellis, South Nellis. It's less than 4 miles. It's right there. But if you look on the Google Earth, if you're looking on the map, it's possible expanding that, going almost to Las Vegas Boulevard. It's just a fence, a lock, The trail is there, and the maintenance team or crew probably go one time in a month or something like that. Some of these parts, it's possible make a little bit improvement in terms of the signing and things like that. So my suggestion is try to use more the flood canals that are available. The money is going to be less. And also build the protected bike lanes that the gentleman before explained, and everybody's agree with that. But that solution, using the canals, it's the best one. And I remember, I suggested that 25 years ago in Los Angeles, California. And everybody was looking to me like, what? And you go today to California, they have one that is the Laguna Dominguez Trail in Redondo Beach. It's the flood canal. So please, use the flood canals in Las Vegas, okay? Thank you so much. I pass on the time. I apologize for that, but it's very important.
Not a problem. Thank you for your comments. And I'm sure the group has done outreach with flood control. But the gentleman makes a good point. Those are existing built-in trails along with the Beltway. I mean, we should continue the dialogue with the county and the Regional Flood Control District as far as the Beltway Trail and also the flood control. As far as access, I know access in the past has been an issue as far as liability, but it certainly makes sense. Joe Keller. And our next speaker would be Judy Craythorne. Judy wants to head down to the front row. Good morning.
I'm Joe Keller. I'm a Henderson resident. I consider myself to be an avid bicyclist, recreational. I don't really race, do any of that sort of thing. I've lived here in the Las Vegas Valley since January of '69, and I've been riding probably since approximately 1980. I've had some good experiences here in town. I really like where I currently live out in Henderson. The trails are fantastic. RTC, the city of Henderson, has done a fantastic job making it safe for us. But in the past, I have had some terrible experiences also. I've ridden on Nellis Boulevard, and one of the experiences there, I was going home on Nellis down the street, and the road was pretty much empty. And I looked in my little rear view mirror that I wear all the time, saw a van coming. They were in the high-speed lane over on the left. I was on the right by the curb. This van came all the way across the street to get close to me and hit me on the shoulder with the mirror. That's very, very scary for a cyclist. You're going into the curb, you're going to crash. What are you going to break? What's it going to take for you to recover? Can you still go to work? That sort of thing. I can't encourage you enough to please help us with some protected bicycle lanes so that doesn't happen to us. It's scary when you look up and you see an 18-wheeler coming right beside you at 60 miles an hour. It is very scary if you haven't been on a bicycle. Try it sometime just on nice, calm streets. So please, please, continue what you're doing. Help us with some of these protected bicycle lanes. We thank you for what you have done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Judy?
Judy Craythorne. I lived in Las Vegas for 30 years. I live in the South County area. And I'm an avid bicyclist, enthusiast. I ride about 6,000 miles a year, and most of it's with the Green Valley Bicycle Club. We tend to stay off the busy roads, and that's where we want to stay, is away from the busy roads, because we need protection from the cars. It's very scary when somebody comes by, just really close. You can get the sensation of how they're traveling just too close and not even aware that you're there. So I want to say I support the RTC plan of improving the system for bicycles and pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ira Eichenfeld? Good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you? Been a while. I too am a Las Vegas resident for 30 years, an avid bicycle rider. We've brought several members of our bike club, Green Valley Cyclists, with us today to speak on behalf of protected bike lanes. Those that do ride know that the most dangerous part of riding is a car pulling in front of you or making a right turn, things like that. So the protected bike lanes would give both a greater safety for the rider and for the cars, and could help protect, obviously, the riders. There's been 69 fatalities since 2009 in this area, bicycle fatalities. A friend of mine, Pete Mikowski, was killed several years ago on Las Vegas Boulevard. And there's a ride we do every year called 3 Feet for Pete. You might have heard about it or seen it. That's a great start, and we appreciate everything you guys have done in that area, but we need more safety for bicycle riders in the Las Vegas Valley. So we do appreciate everything you've done. We'd like you to do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Filomena. This is the last card I have. Is anybody else wishing to speak on a posted agenda item? Okay. Good morning.
Chairman Brown, Mrs. March, good to see you. Members of the RTC. I'm president of the Green Valley Cyclists. We have about 125 members. We are avid cyclists. We ride anywhere from 50 to 200 miles a week on the Henderson and Las Vegas roadways. We've noticed that the bike lanes have improved significantly, and I'm just here to lend my voice to encourage you to please continue on with what you're doing. Some of the new bike lanes that have come about, they are not elevated or protected bike lanes, although the striping has been significantly better than what it has been. So anything that y'all could do to enhance the roadways with more room for cyclists. Our club is very safety conscious, and we always have a safety speech before our rides. We realize that riding along with vehicles can be dangerous. So we're looking out as best we can, and anything that y'all on the board can do to make it easier, safer, good routes going across town and in town, we really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry, would you identify yourself for the record?
My name is Harry Filomena, and I am the president currently of Green Valley Cyclists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Thank you all for taking the time to come down and speak on that item. Your comments are greatly appreciated. So we'll close this portion of public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Your next item, item number 2, is to approve the agenda, which is in order and ready for your approval.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 is to receive the general manager's report. First item today in our general manager's report is to recognize the RTC Superstar of the Quarter. The RTC has saved thousands of dollars because of this employee's voluntary efforts and without directive from a supervisor. This employee took the initiative to research pricing of other office supply companies and compared it to those of our current vendor. She also coordinated with other departments to consolidate supply orders. By going above and beyond her normal job duties, this employee has helped save the agency an estimated $18,000 annually just on her own. Please help me recognize this quarter's superstar, Deanna McGee. MJ, while she's going up there, you want to kind of explain what she did?
So Deanna, we're really lucky. Deanna is my assistant, also Mark Trosdahl, and she, without me directing her or Mark, she took it upon herself to just, she said, I'm going to take over the office supplies. She did her homework, her research, she brought in the vendors, she negotiated a hard deal, and after the fact, we found out that she, by herself, without any direction, had saved the agency about $18,000. She is amazing, amazing.
I love it. She just decided to go hardcore on these vendors and negotiate with them.
To say I'm shocked is beyond. They tricked me this morning. Thank you. I've been here 3 years, and I really do appreciate the people that I work with, my team, the support I give, the support they give me on a daily basis. And I just thank the RTC, and I couldn't be at a better place in this time in my life. Thank you.
We'd also like to recognize a great mechanic from MV Senior Transportation, Pedro Aguilar. Joined MV 2.5 years ago after 7 years with Ford, where he specialized in brakes, steering, and suspension maintenance. He is eager to tackle special projects and campaigns, and most recently was instrumental in the successful installation of Mobileye, our collision avoidance system, on the entire fleet. Mr. Aguilar has proven himself to be a team player and a valued member of the Las Vegas division, so we'd like to thank him for his continued commitment to maintain the safety of our fleet. Please come on down, Pedro.
I guess I just want to thank my employer, MV Transportation. It's a great company, and also the RTC. Wouldn't be here without RTC, so thank you guys.
And you can sit down. Next, we'll share with you that we kicked off our National Infrastructure Week celebration actually last Friday during the Latin Chamber of Commerce luncheon with a small business expo, so that local companies could network with private sector contractors, engineering firms, and government agencies to figure out how we all work together. We also partnered with local jurisdictions to thank those in the field, construction workers in the field, working on critical transportation projects. And yesterday, we worked with local pre-apprentice and apprenticeship programs to host what we called Careers in Motion for residents interested in building a career in the construction and design and or engineering industries. And you know, as a result of question 5 passing, that careers in engineering, design, and construction, specifically in roadway projects, is going to be a very solid career with a strong funding source. So it's a great opportunity, a great time to get into the construction industry. And today, we're celebrating Seeing Orange by kicking off a new ad campaign. We know that orange cones can be troubling, but they are a symbol of progress, growth, and jobs. So the new theme for this Seeing Orange campaign is Love the Cone. The Love the Cone campaign is designed to be fun and memorable, to promote our valley's growth and progress, and to provide resources for our residents to ensure they're aware of active construction sites. So I think we're going to share with you one of the, now we have 5 different, total we have 5. We have 5 total. We're going to share with you 2 of them right now.
I've been called useless, inconvenient, a time-sucking traffic weasel. I'm sick of it. People just see us and they instantly start freaking out. We've been spit on, run over, dragged. Some stuff I can't even talk about. We've lost friends out there. We are not that different than people. We have families, we have hopes and dreams, and if it weren't for us, people would be stuck. Who do they think builds all the roads, the bridges, the freeways, and the overpasses? That's us! You'd think we'd at least get some credit. The time for mutiny is upon us. We need to stand up for ourselves. Who's coming with me? Come on, guys!
How about we just get some nachos instead?
Cute, right? You get another one?
As long as I can remember, people have hated me. The abuse is nonstop. I don't know why. I guess I'm always in the way? Maybe I'm a little inconvenient? Okay, more than a little. But I'm just doing my job. Building things. Roads, bridges, parks, buildings, new freeways, overpasses, useful things. I'm a symbol of progress, a sign of good things to come. If only people could see me for who I truly am, maybe then they could love me. Okay, maybe not.
So, it's just fun. And to continue the celebration, we've partnered with Dunkin' Donuts, who's providing a free orange donut today only to customers at all stores valley-wide. And as you'll notice, each of you has an orange cone donut tower in front of you. You can either choose to keep it yourself or share it with friends who might also need a reminder to love the cone. We're to commemorate this special day, and we also invite all of today's attendees to enjoy an orange cone donut outside of the chamber following this meeting. So now, oh, we already did that. On with the show. You saw the show, and I believe that is the conclusion of my general manager's report.
Does anybody in the
That's
audience?
the first time I've ever gotten applause for general manager's report. Thank you.
Does anybody in the audience remember the movie Cool Hand Luke? So Mayor Lee has offered, opposed to Paul Newman eating 100 eggs, he's offered to eat 66 donuts, as long as everybody's willing to donate to their favorite charity.
Oh, go.
When do you start?
Yeah, right. Right now? Next on your agenda is item number 4, which is to receive the Nevada Department of Transportation Director's Report. Mr. Rudy Malfabon.
Thank you. How do you follow that up? It's really tough. All I have is information. I wanted to thank you for calling attention to National Infrastructure Week with all the activities this week. It was great to have that outreach, and I love that ad campaign for Love the Cone. There has been some recent news reports that I wanted to have some clarification during my director's report. It's been stated that NDOT's bonding for the I-15 projects near the NFL stadium and that we would have those projects completed in 2020. So I wanted to clarify those. With respect to bonding, bonding is an option that we're going to be considering, but no decisions have been made yet. We submitted our biennial budget request to the Governor's Finance Office prior to FRI 2 passage in the public vote last November. So the Governor's recommended budget that was submitted to the legislature didn't include any bonding against FRI 2 revenue. It did include a $180 million bond for Project Neon. NDOT's waiting for the legislative approval of its budget. We had a hearing last night. So for the next biennium, state fiscal years 2018 and 19, we're still waiting for the final approval of our budget. And the state portion of that fuel revenue indexing starts being collected July 1st of this year, and the first deposit of that revenue to the state highway fund starts in September of this year. And we can estimate that revenue, but we'd like to confirm how much revenue that we're going to receive from that funding source before we would issue bonds against it. We need several approvals for the bonding. First, Transportation Board, the Board of Finance, and IFC approval. IFC approves the ability to receive and expend that additional revenue. We plan on using the initial proceeds from the fuel revenue indexing on the next phase of Centennial Bowl. And that's about a $55 million project starting next year. And we'll have our bond council analyze how much bonding capacity is available to NDOT for the needed projects. They're going to look at our regular bonds. We pay off some, I think, a series of bonds next year. They're going to specifically look at the fuel revenue indexing revenue and for projects in Clark County. And I've heard that there's concern that NDOT will divert money away from Clark County, and I've stated before at this board during the director's report that we have no, there shouldn't be a concern about diversion of money away from Clark County. And I'll state that again for the record. There's no diversion of funding. You've asked for a comparison of projects, kind of pre-fuel revenue indexing passage and post. And we still have to collect that information. We've been pretty busy with the legislative issues, so we haven't collected that. But we still intend to brief Chairman Brown about that information and present it to this RTC board. So the NDOT projects originally scheduled for federal fiscal year 18 can be viewed on the current Regional Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, which covers the years 2016 to 2019. That document is being updated. We plan on adding some projects to federal fiscal year 18, and we've had communication with the RTC planning staff about NDOT's changes, which have to be made this summer so they can be rolled up into the statewide plan called the STIP. Among the changes that we've discussed are adding the environmental and preliminary engineering phase for Tropicana Interchange and the Hacienda Harmon HOV ramps. We're issuing a request for proposals in the next few weeks for those projects. Adding the engineering phase of I-15 North and 215 interchange. An RFP is going to be issued for that work as well, for that engineering support. And then we're going to modify the plan for the Centennial Bowl, because originally that project, the next phase was going to be about a $14 million utility relocation. The gas line through there is a very large sized gas line. And working with the utility company, they requested that we just try to leave that in place and build around it, design around it. But the big change is that we're moving that from a $14 million utility relocation to a $55 million construction project in fiscal year 18 instead. Now, regarding the I-15 projects near the new NFL stadium, as I mentioned previously, the environmental clearance is estimated to take about 2 years for a project of that size, the Tropicana interchange and the two HOV ramps at Hacienda and Harmon. We'll develop a funding plan for the construction phase and present it to the Transportation Board for approval. But it's unlikely that we would construct all of these improvements by the fall of 2020. We will look at what phases could start construction as soon as we obtain the federal approvals. I don't believe that the Tropicana interchange could start. I think that we would be able to start looking at right-of-way acquisition and utility relocations, but possibly the Hacienda Harmon HOV ramps could be started before the fall of 2020, subject to the Transportation Board approval. I wanted to talk about another important project, the City Parkway off-ramp. That's kind of the gateway, additional access to Symphony Park. I know it's important to the business community downtown and to the city of Las Vegas. And I've spoken about this project before during the Transportation Investment Business Plan update for NDOT's projects in that business plan. So we had a request to look at how we could advance that project, possibly include it in Project Neon. Since it is on the interstate freeway system, federal approvals are required from FHWA. We had to do the environmental approval called the NEPA process. Change in control of access is needed for any kind of additional access to the interstate system. And both of these are being pursued, and we're trying to get that done late this year, early next year, to get all the federal approvals. Now, we've looked and considered it at addition into Project Neon as a change order it's just not looking to be doable, mainly because NEON has $20 million in incentives built into it for specific phases of completion. Adding a project of this magnitude for City Parkway is just going to mess up that phasing and disrupt the project and add additional cost. Also, when you add a project in of this magnitude by change order, you're not going to get the best prices as compared to a competitive bid. But I still wanted to state our commitment to accelerate this project. We've got this environmental clearance and change of control of access work going on, and want to get the federal approvals and then put together the funding for it for construction. And we have to add that construction phase to the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. We're estimating about $15 to $20 million project there. As I mentioned when I gave the TIBP update, we recognize it's a high priority, and we're developing a plan to finance or fund the construction phase. And we're looking at also our options for adding a third lane. Those that have driven on US 95 southbound towards downtown Las Vegas know that the lane drops to, you only have 2 lanes going under the I-15 bridge. So we want to look at adding a third lane under there as well. So I just ask for patience while we pull our plan together to deliver that important project, and then get it into the regional plan so that it can roll up into the statewide plan. Some other projects that I know are important to the region. I've talked to our chief engineer about getting the 215, the 515 I-11, that Spaghetti Bowl interchange in Henderson, those improvements scheduled. So we're looking at our options to design it either in-house or hire a consultant to assist us. And we're waiting on the results of the Southern Nevada traffic study, which has the traffic projections that feed into these large projects. I've already talked about the Centennial Bowl interchange, but we want to start that next phase next year, and then on the heels of that in 2019 start the final phase, 3C we call it, and it's about a $110 million project, and that would complete that system-to-system interchange improvement. So it's a little bit about the FRI-2. As I said, we're going to pull together that plan. We'll brief Chairman Brown and then bring that information forward to this board. But I've talked a lot about those important projects, the 95, 215 Centennial Bowl, the City Parkway off-ramp, and the Henderson Spaghetti Bowl. We recognize those are important projects to our regional partners and to the community down here in Southern Nevada. So we're looking at ways to advance those and add them to the mix of projects that we already had scheduled. We're also looking at the Tropicana interchange and the Hacienda and Harmon interchange. Pardon me, the HOV ramps at Hacienda and Harmon. Also wanted to mention a little bit about federal funding. As you know, the Congress did approve the appropriations for transportation for federal fiscal year 17. It did provide us with what the FAST Act levels were anticipated to be, but it also included what's called a rescission, which is taking back some of the funding authority to the state DOTs. $857 million rescission was built into that appropriation that was just recently passed by Congress and approved by the President. It affects certain programs that are administered by the State Department of Transportation. NHPP is a National Highway Performance Program. Surface Transportation Block Grant is another area that's controlled by the state DOTs. CMAQ, Construction Mitigation and Air Quality, is affected or on the mix of projects or programs, pardon me, that could be affected, and statewide planning. So there's no impact to the Metropolitan Planning Organization's funding that they receive through as a pass-through from the state DOTs. So RTC's funding sources from the feds are safe. It's just the state portions of funding in the programs that I mentioned will be impacted by that rescission that was built into the appropriations bill. Or we're awaiting further direction from the Federal Highway Administration on Nevada's portion of the rescission, but we're estimating it to be about $8 million rescission. So that concludes a lot of my remarks, and I know that you'll receive a legislative update a bit later, and we're watching a lot of those same bills. I wanted to mention that the governor did sign Assembly Bill 17 into law. That's the move over law, adding NDOT maintenance workers, construction forces that are working along the roads that to the existing law that covers emergency responders, highway patrol and such, police and medical responders that are assisting, and also adds our freeway service patrol contractors to that mix of when they're working on the shoulder assisting motorists that if you can safely move over to the adjacent lane on a multi-lane highway that you do so. And that concludes the director's report. I'm able to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rudy. Comments or questions, Commissioner?
Thank you, Rudy. So on the bonding part, that's not been determined, but that's a possibility. Okay, because in the past, I think we didn't, you all didn't want to use bonding for our projects internally before FRI. So I think it's kind of curious, but I appreciate that maybe.
Yes, I think that what we had said before was we're going to use the first year as pay-as-you-go, see how much we're receiving,
Right.
and then look at our bonding, assess the bonding capacity against that revenue and other revenues that we receive from fuel taxes.
And so on the Russell Road component, the one that's near the stadium, that's now on a project list for you all? Separate from the Tropicana, because that was already on board.
What, could you clarify what improvements you're talking about at Russell Road?
I'm told that at the interchange, and it's not Trop, it's not Harmon, that there's something that's necessary for the roadway near the stadium that NDOT is responsible for. And I'm just reacting to what I read.
I have not seen what improvements are required at Russell Road. I assume that there have to be some pedestrian improvements that NDOT does not see as our responsibility.
So with regard to the stadium, then what roadway work are you anticipating or that's going to be impacted by the development there?
The only improvements that we're looking at are what I've stated, Hacienda Harmon, in the vicinity of the stadium, there are Hacienda Harmon HOV ramps and Tropicana interchange reconstruction. But I know that the developer has to get with Clark County and determine what improvements. I think they're doing their necessary work for studies and presentations to the county for coordination. And definitely, if there's improvements needed at Russell Road, NDOT has to be involved because that's an interchange
That's
on
your
the
interchange
interstate.
as well. And then on the Trop one, I remember when I was briefed a while back that when we redesigned that, we left the legs there at that time years ago, which is part of the problem for doing any kind of changeover. And that's why you're predicting that it would take longer than 2020 to even do that because of that right-of-way acquisition and the legs is what I call them, the concrete pieces that hold up the interchange. Is that correct then?
Yes, at Tropicana interchange, the existing supports for the Tropicana Bridge are prohibiting any kind of expansion of the freeway underneath.
Will there be a new analysis on whether it makes sense, and I don't know, to have HOV lanes there versus what the impact of traffic changes may be with a stadium ingress and egress coming in, that maybe it makes better sense not to do HOV at that time? And I don't know enough about how that works.
In the HOV plan update, I think that it anticipates them remaining there underneath that.
Yeah,
on-
but
on
the
the
last
freeway.
time I saw, even with Project Neon, because Councilwoman Tarkanian and I have been dealing with that one for 18 years, I think, before you actually had to be director, but they didn't really update the counts and the numbers, and I'm just thinking that even though the interconnectivity makes sense, will there be a review to make sure that if it makes better sense to just keep it as additional lane usage for the impact of traffic versus that? And I don't know how you all look at that part of it.
I'd have to look into that, Commissioner.
Okay.
I know that of the 2 express lanes currently on I-15 in each direction, one of them gets converted to general purpose
Right.
and one remains as an HOV lane.
Yeah, so that might be something just to take a look on that part of
I
it.
see.
How much did the state wind up spending on the Tesla Road?
That's about a $75 million project approximately.
And that's completed, correct?
It will complete this fall.
This fall, okay. And then where are we at on transferring highways to the local governments along with some dollar amount from the FRI and just be done with it?
We're still continuing the discussions
It's
with
been 10 years, come on.
Clark County Public Works Director, and I think we made some changes recently to look at adding Tropicana Avenue to the mix of of road transfers, and then I think that we still hope to get that agreement done this year as far as maintenance responsibilities. And then subsequently, after we do all the legal descriptions, that would be the second phase of that agreement to legally transfer the ownership.
How long did it take to do with the strip as a transfer to the county? Because I think it was Susan that was still there in the role.
That was done within, I think, a year of the county approaching
Okay,
NDOT saying
so
that we want
my
that.
goal
There was no swap
Lake
for the strip.
Nellis.
The county just took it, so
I do.
that was a lot easier to do.
Yeah, and Tracy's been wonderful, but I think at some point we just need to get this done while we now have the financing and just say, give us 20 million, give Henderson 5, whatever it might be, and let us take over those local roads so that we can maintain them, upgrade them, and get
And
the
again, I'll
consistent
state for the record, there is no money involved in these swaps. This is, as is, we take over maintenance responsibility of the Beltway for certain roads that NDOT has as state highways. There's no exchange of money in the agreement.
Not right now. I'm just reminding people, because some of that Tesla money was Southern Nevada's money, so maybe there could be some additional revenue that's found from that in the long run. So at this point, nothing has been moved up on the list of what was priority to accommodate the stadium, is what you're saying.
Only the preliminary phases, so environmental clearance and preliminary engineering have been moved up.
For which project? Just for
Because of the vicinity of the Hacienda and Harmon HOV ramps to the Tropicana interchange, we've had discussions with the Federal Highway Administration, and it made sense to study those together. So those three locations, Hacienda, Harmon, and Tropicana, are the three that would be moving forward under that request for proposals for environmental clearance and preliminary engineering.
Okay, and so I remember in the TIBP, I think, don't we have Harmon connecting then? That was the recommendation, correct? But that was maybe under RTC's component and not yours?
Clark County.
That was Clark County.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
that's-
all right.
Yeah, Clark
Which
County.
makes sense. So I just hope that we're all integrated on that part of it then. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other comments? Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
You, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Next items constitute your consent agenda as items 5 through 66 and may be taken in one motion.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is item number 67, which is to approve and adopt the regional bicycle and pedestrian plan. And we have got Raymond Hess, who will introduce the item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Commissioners. Happy National Bike Month. May is actually Bike Month, and so it's very fortuitous that we come before you today on the eve of National Bike to Work Day. Tomorrow, May 19th, is National Bike to Work Day, with a brand new regional bicycle and pedestrian plan that really marks a paradigm shift towards safety and comfort. Now, I will say, I won't mention the word road diet as a tower of donuts stands before you, so we'll stay away from that terminology, but this is really a paradigm shift towards safety and comfort, which we felt was really important as we move this forward, and you heard a lot of testimony earlier this morning about why it is critically important as a consideration. And so I don't want to pretend to be the expert on this. I want to introduce Kathy Halka, who's the brains behind it all, who is project manager. She's our senior transportation planner here at the RTC, and she did a phenomenal job managing this project. Kathy?
Thanks, Raymond. I'm delighted to be here today to present on the Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan for consideration for adoption. The project is funded through the Southern Nevada Health District, and we very much appreciate their partnership. Nicole Bungham is here from the Health District, and she's been a great partner on this project. They received a CDC grant, Partnerships to Improve Community Health, which funds the project. So it's an update to the 2008 plan. Since then, a lot has changed. There have been changing attitudes and interests in biking and walking, as well as new best practices in facility design that focus on creating a higher comfort experience. There are several outcomes of the plan. The planning process provided an opportunity for interjurisdictional coordination and also looked at connecting people to regional destinations. In addition to the 2008 plan, this plan has recommended policies and programs to comprehensively support biking in the region. And as an element of the regional transportation plan, the recommendations of the regional bicycle and pedestrian plan are eligible for RTC funding. So the plan is regional in scope. It does not replace the need for local level plans, which may look at a finer grained network of bike facilities. So the project team has done an outstanding job over the last year and a half developing the plan in coordination with local jurisdiction staff, members of the stakeholder advisory groups, and the public. We've engaged in a robust public outreach effort, including a variety of methods, and received a ton of great feedback to guide the direction of developing the plan. We very much appreciate all of the participation from local jurisdiction staff who provided ideas, reviewed drafts, and met with the team multiple times to help guide the development of the plan. And with guidance from all of our stakeholders, the team has developed an exciting plan that focuses on providing a safe, comfortable, and connected network for riders of all ages and abilities for both recreation and transportation trips. So now I'd like to hand it over to Dave Foster. He's the project manager with Alta Planning and Design. His team, including staff from CH2M, Dan Anderson is here, they've done a fabulous job putting together this plan, and he'll take you through the highlights of the final plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Excited to be here to tell you more about this great plan this morning. It's been a tremendous process, I think, as you can see with the testament we've had from a lot of the general public. My name's Dave Foster with Alta Planning and Design. I'm the project manager, consultant project manager for the Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. So when we started this process about 18 or 20 months ago, we really started by taking a good look at a lot of the great bicycle and pedestrian planning that had already been done in Southern Nevada. We looked at the regional bike gap analysis, we looked at some of the regional bicycle counts that have been done, and probably most importantly, we looked at Southern Nevada Strong, which identified kind of this paradigm shift, as Raymond mentioned, in terms of embracing biking and walking as a viable transportation and recreation asset. So based on those previous studies and public input, we developed the following vision statement that states, Southern Nevada will develop a safe, connected, and convenient walking and bicycling system that serves as a viable transportation and recreation asset while advancing the region's economic, educational, health, and environmental goals. So to support that vision statement, we came up with four primary goals. Goal number one is comfort and safety. So we want to make sure that the biking and walking facilities we're putting out there are safe, but we also want to make sure that they're comfortable. So high comfort facilities are essentially facilities that are accessible to all ages and abilities. You might also hear of them referred to as 8 to 80, so they could serve a senior citizen or an 8-year-old child. The second goal was access, so where does the biking and pedestrian facilities connect to, making sure we're connecting to parks, to schools, to employment centers, so that this can really be a viable transportation option for Southern Nevada residents. Goal number 3, education and encouragement. The plan includes a significant focus on programs that was not included in the 2008 plan, so we wanted to recognize the great program work that's being done in Southern Nevada, but also recommend new programs to supplement what's already being done and potential gaps. And then finally, goal number 4, equity and health. Underserved populations like minorities, those living in poverty, the young, senior citizens, they bear a disproportionate transportation burden as compared to the rest of the community, and that makes them more reliant on transit and active transportation as their primary form of transportation. So we want to make sure that we're really serving those demographics well with high-quality biking and walking facilities. We also wanted to recognize the critical link between health and active transportation. So to support those 4 goals, we also came up with a number of performance measures that include key ways we can track the plan throughout its life cycle, things like tracking crash rates, tracking bicycling and walking mode share over time, and even minutes of physical activity achieved by Southern Nevada residents. As Kathy mentioned too, there's a complete suite of policies that have been recommended. These vary from incentivizing end-of-trip facilities like bicycle parking and changing rooms, to expanding bike share, to encouraging adoption of local complete streets ordinances. There's also program recommendations that vary from expanding Club Ride to include schools, to promoting various different types of education, encouragement, and enforcement activities, to a variety of other things as well. The plan also includes design guidelines. As Kathy mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of change since the 2008 plan in terms of research and kind of best practices for the design of bicycle and walking facilities. So you'll see potentially some new types of facilities like buffered bike lanes or separated bike lanes that really strive to create these high comfort facilities that are one of the main goals of the plan. So this is a map of the existing biking and walking network in Southern Nevada. You can see it's about 870 miles. 46% of the existing system is what we would classify as high comfort, but most of that is made up through the shared use path network, which is excellent. However, only 6% of existing on-street bikeways meet our high comfort criteria. The proposed network, illustrated here, shows a real focus on increasing these high comfort bikeways. So the orange facilities on this map, you can see it's a much denser network, and it really provides a much more well-connected network throughout Southern Nevada. Some key highlights from the recommended facility network: we're almost doubling the amount of mileage that's on the ground, drastically improving or increasing the amount of high comfort facilities that are out there. And at full build out of the plan, almost 75% of all the biking and walking facilities will be high comfort. So in the existing conditions phase of the project, we did what's called a bicycle level of comfort analysis. That looks at things like traffic volumes, number of lanes, speeds, absence or presence of on-street parking, and gives a comfort score to existing on-street roads. So the red on this map indicates roads that are only accessible to the most confident and fearless cyclists. Only about 15% of collector and arterial mileage have high comfort bikeways currently. At full build out, we'll be able to increase that percentage up to 50%. So the green in this proposed condition map shows all the green routes are accessible to all ages and abilities. The plan also included a thorough prioritization scoring process for all of the projects. They included 3 of our 4 project goals, excluding the education and encouragement, as that wasn't necessarily applicable to the infrastructure. But we also added criteria to account for regional significance. This is a regional plan, so we wanted to make sure we're rewarding projects that are connecting communities and serving regionally significant destinations. And then feasibility. So we tried to pair recommended projects to projects that are on the FRI list, to projects that are already in approved CIP budgets, projects that could be completed quickly and easily. So just simply striping a bike lane in an existing wide shoulder would be an example of a project that would get additional feasibility points. And then finally, the plan included a comprehensive review of funding sources to fund the implementation of these biking and walking facilities at both the local, state, and federal level. We also included a few options for even private options. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kathy to wrap up.
Thanks, Dave. We really appreciate your consideration today of this plan. I think it's an exciting opportunity to move forward on creating a more safe, comfortable, and connected network in the Valley. And Dave and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wondered if you had prioritized projects, certain roadways, and what your timeline was to ensure that this could be implemented across the community. Obviously, there has to be buy-in from all the municipalities, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So the plan includes the prioritization criteria, and each infrastructure recommendation has a segment that's listed in the appendix of the plan by jurisdiction based on the prioritization. We have provided this as a reference for local jurisdictions as they consider programming and funding projects in the future. So it would be up to the implementing agency to include that. And as Dave mentioned as well, some FRI projects may overlap with roadways where a bike facility is being recommended, but that prioritization of segments is there for a reference for local jurisdictions.
If I could add to that too, I mean, we always recommend a flexible and opportunistic approach to implementation. So, you know, the prioritization that's laid out in the appendices is inevitably going to change. And the important thing is that we're, you know, leveraging our dollars as best we can to get these facilities built.
Commissioner.
Thank you. Excellent report, both of you. I think some of the speakers this morning brought up some interesting things. So tell me about the 13-foot road that the one gentleman mentioned about. We have too wide a road, which I agree with, that creates speeding, which then puts at risk. So is that in this report or that recommendation for us to take a look at that?
We recommended that local jurisdictions continue to adopt their own complete streets policies, and that would probably be sort of a subset of that process.
Yeah, the idea of creating narrower lanes to slow down speeds and reduce severity of crashes or incidences of crashes is something we can look to as the RTC, for example, may be looking or local jurisdictions to their design guidelines to see opportunities for that as they look to implement complete streets design guidelines.
Okay, because I think there's some subtle resistance still out there, at least in ours, and I think that's something we will have to deal with that part of it. But an example would be Hollywood or Tree Line, or they're just so wide that and they're right by schools. And I think if we narrowed them and then did a safety bicycle lane for both the kids and folks, that we'd accomplish it much more easily and quickly than longer term. Raymond, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, Commissioner.
I just want to comment real quick. Yes, you're correct, and studies will show you the worst thing that you can do for safety is to have speeds of 45 miles or above, and those lanes as wide as some of the ones that we have. The worst thing you can do.
We started lowering the speed limit on Hollywood, I think, I don't know if Dennis is here, but quite a while ago, because of that factor as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is a change with this plan. You know, the past plan actually identified what we called shared lane facilities,
Correct.
where it was the wider 14-foot, 13-foot outer lane that the idea is, you know, you sign it as a share the road type facility. This plan is getting away from that recommendation entirely and moving more towards separated, more higher comfort facilities.
Which I would agree. I'm a minimal bicyclist on my Sears fat tire pink Huffy, but you know what? It works. But I have what do we call the little sticky thingies? They're not chicanes. What's the term?
Like little plastic pylons or candlesticks?
Pylons or
yeah.
candlesticks. I just needed to know the terminology. To me, that makes the sense. It was $4 to $6, I think, for painting and adding those. To me, that's a very easy fix and investment that we should make. So I'm thinking maybe we take back to our own jurisdictions this and maybe have a minimal presentation, Mr. Chair, and then give direction for policy for our public works people to then say, this is what we're adopting. You don't have to like it, you get to implement it. And so, I mean, there may just be some ways to be able to deal with that part of it. Traffic lights in Holland, I was there 30 years ago. They even have on their traffic lights with your bicycle and when you can cross. I mean, that's down the road, but it's still things that are out there that we could be adopting as we change out facilities or lighting or traffic lights. So I just hope that we're thinking, at least us, a little bit differently and more progressively so that heck, you even get on the trains there and they have a picture of you with your dog. I mean, it's just great. Including your bikes. I would hope the 3 foot for Pete was very much, it's been law now for 4 years, I think, and I think that there's still an undereducated population about what that means. I still get complaints when we added a bike lane on Cabana. Oh, nobody ever is on it, and da-da-da. I said, hey, number one, it's the law. And number two, it actually will be used. You just have to give people time to get used to that route that hadn't been there before. It's what one gentleman was saying about how you have to educate drivers over a period of time as well. So I think the education piece is absolutely, as a teacher, I'd like to see some curriculum. I know, Kathy, we talked about that, because if we can teach the kids, they will teach their parents. People don't know that really by law, a bike is defined as a vehicle. They really shouldn't be on sidewalks unless we make it a multimodal sidewalk, which is appropriate in some places of town. So it's all those other factors, but I do think we can't forget the education component on how we work forward on that part of it. So 6% of our roads are high comfort, is all, and then 15% of our arterials. Did I see, is that correct? So we've got a ways to go. So I'm hoping that as any of us are resurfacing or redesigning, that this is an automatic policy that we put into place instead of waiting down the road and include that cost in whatever we're doing on redesign. It just makes sense rather than going back and tearing something up. It's like, you know, the chairman has long been a proponent of public utilities working together, so you're not tearing up your roads more than 3 times. This is kind of the same thing. If you're going to go in, then we should be designing it for what's the best use for the future, not just what we used to do in the past. So I think this is a really excellent piece, but I think, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I think we could maybe make this an agenda item, at least before the county, and take a look at the policy, and maybe our other colleagues would do something similar so that we're all kind of on the same page, especially if we ever get our roadways transferred over from the state. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all. Great presentation, and certainly the speakers earlier affirmed that.
Yeah,
Yes,
move
please.
forward. Yes, and Mr. Chairman, we are looking for action today on this item.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, your
Tina,
next...
if I could,
Sure.
we'll wait. Mayor Lee and I, or me, we need to be over at the LVCVA by
Yes.
statute for their budget. So if I could take out of order with the board's permission, if we could hear 69, 70, and 71.
Okay.
And then come back to 68, the update. And then also, for the audience, we will be having the public comment, the final public comment, prior to the board going into a closed-door session. So we'll ask also to take that out of order at the appropriate time. Okay?
Very good. So item number 69, 70, and 71 will be handled by our Deputy General Manager, MJ Maynard.
Thanks, Tina.
Just so you know, we told them they have 10 minutes.
That's right, quick.
Yeah.
So item 69 is to receive a presentation on the tentative budget for fiscal year 2018. Just to note, the budget has been on record at the RTC and the Clark County Clerk's Office for review by the public since April 13th, 2017. Following the presentation, agenda item 70 is to conduct a public hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year, which will be followed by agenda item 71, where we'll ask the board to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2018 and direct the RTC Department of Finance to transmit the final budget as adopted to the Nevada Department of Taxation. And I'll turn over to Mark Trosdahl.
Thank you, MJ. Mark Trosdahl, Director of Finance, for the record. We'll start out our budget presentation looking at our funding sources. We're budgeting $724.4 million of revenue for fiscal 18, sales tax still being the largest source of that funding. We do plan on issuing bonds in fiscal 18 against the FRI-1 and the new FRI-2 revenue. The sales tax, we are budgeting that revenue at $203 million. You can see our chart here with nice increases over the last several years. The motor vehicle fuel tax, or our 9-cent fuel tax revenue, we're budgeting that at $75 million in fiscal 18. And FRI-1, we are budgeting that at $88 million in fiscal 18, which is a 3% increase from our projected 17. Fuel revenue indexing, number 2, our new program, that is being budgeted at $6 million in fiscal 18. Our fixed route revenue on the bus system, we've had a decrease. We're projecting a decrease for fiscal 17 at 3.2%, and we're going to budget that as flat revenue from $67 million to $67 million in fiscal 18 due to that decrease. We are adding 60,000 hours of service for the fixed route in fiscal 18. Going to expenditures, our funding uses, we're budgeting about $900.5 million in expenditures for fiscal 18, the largest being capital outlay, which represents about 59% of that expenditure, the total expenditures. Our contracted services at about 26.3%, our debt service at 10%, and salaries and benefits at 4.3% of total expenditures. Our next slide is capital outlay. We can see here if we add up our 4 road construction programs that they total 80% of our capital outlay for fiscal 18, and transit represents 20%. The next slide shows our fixed route contract cost. We're budgeting $110 million in fiscal 18, and that will provide 1,690,000 hours of service. We're budgeting $46 million for our paratransit cost next year, and that's an increase of 7% from our projected in fiscal 17. Our cost of fuel, we're budgeting that at $10 million in fiscal 18, and you can see we've set a record in fiscal 16 for the lowest fuel cost that we've had. And that concludes my prepared presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on the RTC budget. If there's anyone here wishing to speak on the budget, now is your opportunity. Seeing and hearing no one, comments or questions from the board? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Motion on the floor for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
With that, we'll go back to item number 68, which is to receive a presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, 67, which is to approve and adopt. That's not right either. Sick. Okay. Item number 68, which is to receive an update from RTC staff on the 2017 legislative session and take any action deemed appropriate. And Angela Castro will handle that item in 7 minutes or less.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members.
Angela, before you start, I'm not even sure it's on your list. I had spoken to staff during the briefing, and I would ask my colleagues and NDOT, there's a bill up in the session dealing with the CMAR and the sunset. And apparently, Fred explained that there were a couple bills. One has been abandoned, but there's still one active. And certainly if you could speak to your respective lobbyists up in Carson City, we feel at the county, and I think the RTC also, as well as the LVCVA, it's a critically important piece of legislation. The LVCVA expansion is dependent upon the CMAR sunset being extended. So if we could check with our respective folks up in Carson, would certainly appreciate your support.
Good morning. For the record, it's Angela Castro with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. On the heels of the chairman, just if you guys are looking for more information, that's Senate Bill 246, and it's going to be heard on Tuesday in Assembly Government Affairs at 8 a.m. So we're ready to support. With that, I'll briefly go through the legislative update. We are up against deadlines, and so the team has been working aggressively to get bills out, and these are the bills that have gotten out and have made the deadline. The deadline is this Friday for bills to get out of the House committee, and then bills need to get out of the second House by Friday, May 26th. So that's what we're aggressively working towards. The first bill that we wanted to go over is Senate Bill 149, RTC's enabling legislation. This actually passed on Tuesday out of the Assembly Transportation Committee. We're waiting for it to get scheduled for a floor vote. We'll go back to the Senate for concurrence, and then we should be good. It'll be off to the governor. The next bill is a public-private partnerships bill, Senate Bill 448. This also got voted out on Tuesday in Assembly Transportation unanimously. This needs 2/3 vote, and we are hopeful that we will get that in the House vote. The next bill is a regional planning bill. Congratulations, Commissioner G and Mayor Deborah March. This bill has made it out of Assembly Government Affairs, and it is because there were no amendments. It'll go to a floor vote. Once it goes to a floor vote, it'll go off to the governor. So that's the last 2 steps for that bill. The next bill is Assembly Bill 234. This is the Paratransit Services Bill. The significant thing about this is it went over to Senate Transportation. We were able to successfully get an amendment that excludes taxi cabs and transportation network companies from the training requirements, so the RTC we can pursue our pilot programs. So that bill will go to a floor vote as well, and then move back to the Assembly for concurrence. The next 2 bills have been exempt from the deadline, and we're working aggressively again to move these through the next 2.5 weeks. Senate Bill 517 is the State Infrastructure Bank. Last week, it was voted out of Senate Finance. We're waiting for it to get a floor vote, and then we'll start working on this bill on the Assembly side. The next bill is Senate Bill 207, the Legislative Interim Committee. This bill has a fiscal note on it, so we're waiting for the budget. It'll be heard towards very end of the session. We are working very closely, though, with the chair of Senate Finance on this bill. The last bill is Assembly Bill 401, which is the road usage fee. This bill was never scheduled for a hearing, and we do not anticipate it moving forward this session. From what we were told, there was no appetite from legislators to advance this bill, especially during this session, because there's increased sensitivity towards fees and taxes. And that concludes my update in 7 minutes or less.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board? On 401, was there any kind of dialogue of putting into an interim committee?
So if we pass the interim committee, and that's what we're working to towards the end of the session, it is something that we'll be funding and discussing innovative funding options was as part of that bill.
So, yeah, we'd have to have SB 207 pass first before we'd be able to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, your next item is to conduct your last citizens participation period.
This is the second time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak to the board, and now is your opportunity.
Chairman Brown, thank you again. Alita Dupree here for the record to speak briefly once again, mostly about buses and public transport. I was at the city council meeting yesterday across the street. I'm looking forward to the new downtown loop running, so let's get it up and running quickly because I plan to use it, make it easier for me to get around across Fremont. Gives you more of a circle instead of going in one direction out of the BTC. Let's keep pushing with the technology so I continue to use the app. Let's make sure that we get the understanding out to the drivers about the app. I'm using the readers. I enjoy the readers. Some drivers, I think, claim they don't hear the readers. The signage in the buses is very good where it says the red and the green, but it doesn't make a note of the yellow signal for reduced fare. Customers like myself, so some drivers think that I am not paying proper fare. This needs to be fixed. I have my proof of fare, always, not just in here, but it's in your records. So everyone should know that. I've been watching videos about this technology. They even have it for old phones, where you can use old phones to pay for buses and trains. So let's do that. My roommate has an old phone. I've been at this technology for years. I've had a Clipper card in San Francisco for 7 years. In 1991, I came back home to Oklahoma from Desert Storm and discovered a thing called Pike Pass. I got 2 of them for my cars and drove them on the 10 Oklahoma turnpikes. Well, I don't have the Pike Passes, I don't have the cars, and my ex is gone, but I've got this. So concerning the consent agenda, I'm looking forward to the new buses that will be coming, given signing the new option for the new flyer and continuing the Veterans Transportation Network. And hopefully we can get the legislative update for the paratransit so we can have the pilot for the taxis and the TNCs, because I use TNCs and I can get in and out of a TNC, and the more people we can move, especially with people with disabilities like myself, is better. So I am enjoying the readers. I like the sounds they make. I was watching Willy Wonka in San Diego, the original 1971 version with Gene Wilder. I see the orange donuts, so I'm thinking Willy Wonka and the Orange Factory. And I like the sounds of the readers. It goes floop. I'm thinking Augustus Gloop, Augustus Gloop. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Seeing and hearing no one, will close this portion of public comment and need a motion to go into closed session. A motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.